On March 14th, 2025, Donald Trump posted a social media status thanking Senator Chuck Schumer for going along with the continuing resolution bill Republicans in the Senate put forth. But what exactly is Donald Trump thanking Senator Chuck Schumer for? And what is its impact in communities across the nation? Let's talk about it. Trump's praise of Senator Chuck Schumer came at the expense of Democratic fallout, most notably from Nancy Pelosi as well as Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Their concern was that in a moment where Republicans would have been forced to the table to negotiate, Chuck Schumer, along with 9 other Democratic senators, forfeited their ground, making the effort to slow the impact of the Trump administration's policies that much more difficult. Along with this, the continuing resolution bill did not provide tax cuts for everyday people or provide more emergency funding for natural disasters, as Trump alleged in his social media posts. Rather, the continuing resolution bill did just the opposite. When Chuck Schumer, along with 9 of his Democratic colleagues in the Senate, agreed to the continuing resolution bill, which Republicans put forth, billions of dollars in aid needed in communities across the nation were cut. According to Politico, as well as the website provided by Democrats as it relates to appropriations, the following areas were cut and or expanded. Defense spending was expanded by $6 billion. Non-defense spending was cut by $13 billion. Additional funding for Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, was provided to the tune of $10 billion to continue its efforts in arrest, as well as expanding detention beds with no oversight, guardrails, or assurances in place. As it relates to election security, which is a very important issue to Republicans, $40 million in grant funding was cut out, leaving elections less secure. The bill also maintained a $20 billion freeze in IRS funding. The bill also did not renew $40 million for programs designated for children and families. This impacts red states such as Mississippi, particularly for senators like Cindy Hyde-Smith, who requested $250,000 for programs as it relates to children in the state. Additionally, as it relates to houselessness, $168 million was taken away from programs that impacted communities across the nation, and more specifically, that $168 million would assist about 400 communities in the country. $890 million in grants that would benefit healthcare facilities and equipment was also removed. Interestingly enough, those requesting grant money from this particular fund is Senator Shelley Moore Capito of West Virginia, Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, Senator Markwayne Mullin of Oklahoma, and Senator Roger Wicker of Mississippi. So even these conservative and or Republican senators will not be able to help their constituents because $890 million in grants as it relates to healthcare facilities and equipment, again, has been cut out. $293 million in emergency preparedness and disaster mitigation for FEMA is not renewed. $116 million in small business administration, not renewed. $107 million in workforce development, cut out. Additionally, what is targeted in the bill are clean water projects. So Flint, Michigan immediately comes to mind, law enforcement grants, as well as assistance for Native Americans. So even as we have those on the right side of the aisle who primarily say back the blue, here we see law enforcement grants are in fact being cut. The bill also did not include an expected provision that would have reversed the cuts in pay for doctors in Medicare. So those doctors will remain underpaid. As it relates to veterans, the bill did include $6 billion in mandatory funding. However, that number falls short of the $22.8 billion that is needed to properly fund the VA. So again, here we see a contradiction, not only as it relates to law enforcement, but also as it relates to veterans. As it relates to the National Institutes of Health, $280 million were cut. As it relates to the Federal Aviation Administration, they were provided with $4 billion. Now, why is this important? This is important because what this allows Elon Musk to do is redirect those funds toward both Starlink and SpaceX. So here we have a conflict of interest that is taking place that everyone should be paying attention to. But in the continuing resolution bill that move forward here, clearly we see that Republicans are underfunding communities across the United States as they make sure that Elon Musk has access to at least $4 billion. And that effort was backed up again by these 10 Democratic senators. What also took place is that a cut in $2 billion that was designated by Congress for projects across all 50 states as well as the U.S. territories that would have improved airports, railways, roads, and ports. $2 billion was cut from that. Now, why is that important? Because the Trump administration has already frozen more than $60 billion. So on top of the $60 billion being frozen in this area that would have provided jobs as well as the improvement of infrastructure across the United States, an additional $2 billion has been cut. As relates to Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, what has been removed from this particular area is $27 million. And why is this important? Is that because this area is responsible for looking into things such as avian flu and different things of that sort in terms of prevention programs as well as research and development. As it relates to Ukraine, in moving them from supplemental funding to a more permanent funding, vis-a-vis the Department of State and U.S. aid, that area, as it relates to funding, has been reduced. As it relates to providing internet in rural areas, primarily areas where those constituents who are on the right side of the aisle reside, $30 million has been removed, making it that much harder for those persons to access the internet and have service in their areas. As it relates to the Corps of Engineers and Civil Works projects, 44% in that area has been cut, or about $1.4 billion, representing over 1,000 projects, as well as jobs that would have improved the infrastructure of the nation, as well as help to provide homes within the nation, as well as put food on tables, etc., because that would have generated jobs. And because these projects have been cut by way of this 44% reduction, what is impacted are our waterways, our flood risk, as well as ecosystems. Also impacted is the Power Marketing Administration. And this is important because the requested budget for daily operations and maintenance activities as it relates to electricity, the funding in this area has been cut, and that impacts more than 60 million people across 34 states who, without sufficient funding in this particular area, that customers are likely to experience an increase in their power bills as well as frequent power disruptions. So this is something to be aware of. Again, this is coming directly from Politico as well as the Democratic appropriation site in terms of the continuing resolution and its impact. The emergency food program has been reduced by $20 million, impacting over 25,000 seniors across the nation. Also at risk is K through 12 education, and that the funds designated for this area, which is grants for school-based mental health services in community schools, could be transferred to charter schools. I did a video on this titled The Conundrum of School Choice in the GOP. It is available on my profile for you to check out, because what they are trying to bring into being here are education savings accounts. So you can check out that video for more about that. Also impacted are students at the collegiate level. For funding for student financial assistance programs would be at risk, including funding for federal work study and supplemental education opportunity grant. Chuck Schumer insists these cuts, which negatively impact the lives of millions while simultaneously lining the pockets of the elite, was a better option than shutting down the government and forcing Republicans to negotiate. Seemingly outdated infrastructure, privatizing government agencies, as well as senior citizens going without food is a viable option for Chuck Schumer as well as the 9 senators who went along with him. Although Republicans drafted the bill and put the bill forward, Democrats are now just as responsible for the effects of the bill. And as a result, Several questions now arise concerning the aims, goals, and purpose of the Democratic Party. I'll see you next time. Peace.